All righty. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good morning. Thank you all for bearing with me. Was having to get some photos and everything together. Today we're joined by a very, very well-known Vietnam veteran and blue light operator from Vietnam. Y'all have seen him from Jack Murphy to, gosh, there's several on YouTube, but Jack's is probably the most well known, and that's actually where I first saw Mr. John. And I'm lucky enough that Jack got us in touch with him, and he's going to spend some time talking to us about his amazing career. Mr. John retired as a major, and as I said, served with an A team for his first tour, then with SOG, then with the Phoenix program, found his way into blue light and then retired and was running some personal security and private corporation work. So if y'all got questions, go ahead and start getting some questions in, and we're going to start this off. Mr. John, you were born in Oklahoma, is that correct?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, I was born here where I live now. I determined that I was going to escape when I graduated high school at 17, and here I am back.
All righty, we've got a few Oklahoma viewers in the crowd, and they'll be glad to see that you're back home in Oklahoma and back where you belong.
Yeah,
um, so you joined very early, 17. Did you have any family family history with the military? Was this a thing
had
that you
a
felt?
had a long history of draft dodgers. No, I think the last one in my direct history was somewhere in the start of the colonies up on the east coast.
Oh wow. Okay.
Just kept moving around whenever there was a war. They stayed away from it. So yeah, I'm the first one.
Wow. Okay. And what a what a one to enter and make such a career for the Mullins name. I mean, that is outstanding. So let's see. I believe if I remember correctly, you went to basic training at Fort Hood.
At Fort Hood. That's correct. Yep.
All
That was
righty.
that was pretty common in those days. That was an 8 week course, and then the next 8 weeks was for what they called the SOI, the whatever you're going to be. And I knew we'd had hired hand out here who had been in World War II and as paratrooper, and I wanted to be a paratrooper. So I went to a place where I could go through jump school and did that.
Wow. Wow. And you mentioned in one of your past interviews that you had gotten your airborne wings, and I believe you were with the 101st, and um, you started. Well, this led you to SF, is what I kind of gathered from it. But you had a old Marine from WW2 that had rejoined the army that was pretty tough and hardcore, and you were trying your best to get away from him as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I considered myself to be a badass back in those days, and got into fights, and I'd have to report to the first sergeant, and basically he'd say, put him up. I don't think I ever laid a finger on him. Did that twice, and then shortly thereafter, the last one, they put us all in the auditorium, and this guy came up and had a totally unauthorized Green Beret at the time. Beret wasn't authorized, actually authorized until a couple of years later. But all I could hear was that it would get me away from 101st, and before that first sergeant killed me. So off I went to the 101st, went to Fort Bragg. They asked what I wanted to be in the Special Forces, and they wanted to put me in camo, and that just didn't suit me at all. But a friend of mine said, if you become a medic, you'll go down to Fort Sam Houston, and they will. That place is absolutely full of female soldiers. I'm 18 at that time, so that was a pretty easy decision to make. And went down there and met this girl from Louisiana, and 62 years later, we're still together.
Hot dang, that's amazing. And guys, she actually helped us get the internet and the phones connected. So she's a very kind lady, and very glad to hear that she stuck with you through all these years.
Yep. She, much to her dismay, I'm still alive.
Wow. So what year? I mean, this is pretty early on, since especially the Green Beret was unauthorized still at that time.
Totally unauthorized at the time. It didn't get authorized until President Kennedy came down for a big demonstration and everything, and he authorized it on the spot at that time. So that was back in those days. You didn't get the full caduceus on your hat. It was later on that once you'd achieved a certain level that you got the full beret.
Mm, mm. And we were, as a matter of fact, we had a guest on that's doing a biography on a Ranger, Mr. Mikey Conness, and we saw his beret with the candy stripe on. So we were kind of looking at some guys in training group. So that's always interesting to hear about, and it's kind of been talked about and all of that. But I always find it interesting, some of you old school guys that were at Fort Sam when the notorious, infamous, however you'd like to lay it, the dog lab was still going on.
Yeah, I mean, it was a madhouse, really, trying to get it all together because we knew we had to get a bunch of teams together to go to Vietnam. And we already had several teams go into Laos and Cambodia, and got shot up pretty bad. So it was, we were in a rush to get it done. We had just established the 5th Special Forces Group, and I was assigned to B Company as a combat medic. And shortly thereafter, went to Vietnam on a temporary duty thing, 6 months, up north of or northwest of Saigon.
Was that your tour at I think maybe Loc Ninh? Was that where you were?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. We've heard a lot about that, and prior guests mentioning it, and I've definitely read a lot about it in Mr. Shelby Stanton's books, Green Berets at War in Southeast Asia. Definitely a hot spot, and I think you said that it was probably the worst camp setup that you could have. Was that the one that y'all were down in that valley and
Yeah,
just got
right
rocketed on?
Yeah, it was right down the valley. The French people were still there, particularly in raising a lot of things there. So we couldn't touch that, and we were all the way down. So all they had to do was shoot down on us, and it was an interesting place. We obviously shot back. I got my first real I mean, I did a lot of medical stuff. We'd go out for medical TDYs out with troops. But in this case, they had one of our teams was out to the northeast of us, and the Viet Cong got set up. They planned to shoot up the team when they came back through, but a better thing came for them. My team leader and team sergeant and a new guy, team leader, came through there and got shot to pieces.
Man, that just always sounds bad when y'all are down in valleys. It never ends well for y'all like that. What was you mentioned getting into some very heavy contact. Were at this point in time in the war, the VC clearly still around before Tet. Were y'all getting NVA mixed in, regulars mixed in along with VC?
Those days, no. It was all Viet Cong. I mean, they had some advisors from the north, but that was about it. We didn't start running into the NVA until about 66.
Wow. Okay. So they were still getting the trail ready and getting everything moved and starting to really ramp it up around that time.
Exactly.
Wow.
We 66. I was there up in the Central Highlands as the XO of A team, and the Cav had just made a big operation. They thought that they'd wiped out the Gold Star unit there. So, but we were tasked to go up and go into the mountains there and see if that was truth. And I pretty quickly found out no, it wasn't. And we had about a day-long firefight there. But little did I know that I was assaulting a full battalion with the Indige company. But we made it. That's where I got my first Silver Star.
Holy moly. Were your indigenous troops that you were fighting with at this point in time Cambodians?
No, these were local Montagnards.
Oh, wow. Okay. So your first your first tour and time in Vietnam, you struck up a relationship with the Montagnards quite early then. Wow.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Wow.
They were excellent soldiers, far better than the Vietnamese were. And they would go to all things, everything they could, do everything they could to keep the Americans alive, to include getting themselves killed. My biggest problem was getting them out from in front of me so I could see what's going on.
We had a vet say that exact thing, that when something broke out or airstrikes got too close, that I mean he couldn't direct fire because the Montagnards were laying on top of him, so nothing would hit him.
Yeah, that's about right.
Brave men, and it shows their dedication to you guys, which we love hearing about that.
Very much so.
Wow.
That camp was stayed hot, and we got info from one of the patrols up there that we were getting ready to take a big hit up there. And then we confirmed that by going around using that information and going around to some of the people that were in the camp. And their idea was they'd blow a hole in the concertina, and then and it was North Vietnamese and South Vietnamese would come in through there and kill all the Americans. So I found that out, and we got it all set up to where they'd think it was going to be an easy thing. I had all the villagers out in the front that was the only entrance into that camp. I got them all to leave, and I set up one of the world's biggest claymores on that gate. They came bopping down through there. I set that off, and I swear it blew. I think they probably heard it in Saigon.
Gee, what did you use to constitute the world's biggest claymore?
I had the engine from an old, well, not old, but a shot up truck. So I put that out as my shrapnel. And behind that, I put ANFO, ammonium nitrate fuel oil. And once I kicked it off, it cleared areas that were just amazing.
Holy moly, that definitely sounds like that is definitely anti-personnel and materiel type claymore right there. Good Lord.
Exactly.
Wow. And I mean, you also being a special forces medic, you're not just getting a healthy dose of combat, shall we say, this first tour, that you're actually I mean, you end up keeping a man alive. You're doing dental work. Can you kind of speak a little bit about what it was like getting there, your first go around, and really facing the elements, shall we say, medically?
Yeah, the first one there was, as I mentioned earlier, that was our TDY tour up in the high, up in the French area there. It was very nice. I mean, we were down that valley. That wasn't nice. But when we'd go up to the French, were still there. They had a pool and a bar, so it was. We'd go up there and have a drink or two, and then so it was. And we were gathering information on them. They were gathering it up on us, so it wasn't terribly surprising. We had a patrol out there one night, and they got shot up pretty bad. So they brought them back in, and you know about triage. They treat the people who are most likely to live first. And the second one is still, they're plenty likely that they're given proper medication, they'll come out of it. The last triage was put him over to the. Excuse me, I got to sneeze trying to work its way here.
It's all right.
But that guy we just had one, but he'd taken around just above his eye and blew a hole through a skull. And so I did my thing with the people that were still alive, but I was determined, a bit arrogant, I'm afraid, but I was determined I would keep that guy alive. So he'd go into convulsions, and I'd hit him with sodium pentothal. He'd go down too far, and I'd hit him with the stimulant. And we went through that all night long, up and down, up and down. And back in those days, you didn't have helicopter evacuation. There were very few helicopters in the country at that point. So we did get him up to the landing site the next morning, and I never figured he'd make it. My second tour, I reported in to the Saigon, to the operation up there, and there was this gate guard.
Holy cow, that's unbelievable. And I mean, with a wound like that, and for you to be fighting to keep him alive all night like that, I mean, that's outstanding. I mean, that, and there he is still working and not hindered or any way. I mean, that's a hell of a shot to take a round in the head.
Yeah, it was. I never figured he would live, but I damn sure wasn't going to just let him die. So I did work on him, got him out of there.
I mean, that's outstanding and a testament to y'all's training as Special Forces medics. I always hear it from the guys, and even when we talk to Marines when they come in contact with you guys, that they have rather have nobody else with them than a Special Forces medic when something goes bad, because you're in damn good hands. Pardon my French.
Yeah, you had going the training for that was the most extensive one that anybody did. As far as we had first off, we had the training down at Fort Sam. Then we went to an OJT in a hospital and worked our way in each of the wards there. Then came back to Fort Bragg and went to what then was called the Dog Lab. Uh, People wouldn't be calling it that now, but essentially, it was both. You had to memorize, had to learn this stuff, memorize it, and we'd had this doctor who would get up there at the podium and he'd start talking and talk solidly for an hour, and whatever it was, berry or treatment thereof, and so forth. And you better have it because you're going to be tested at the end of that week. We started with 40 people. We graduated 12.
Holy cow! And can you talk about one thing that we kind of went over it, and people can kind of surmise what it was, but um, the reason Special Forces medics are so well with gunshot wounds and actual trauma wounds, shall we say, is because y'all are with the dog and now the goat, and I don't know if it's still the goat, but y'all are actually working on gunshot victims when you're first learning, and then like you said, going to a hospital and you're getting whatever comes in the emergency room.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about the sheer training and what it was like seeing that on
The
the on
dog.
the job training?
Well, we'll talk about the dog lab, and yes, later on the ASPCA found out what we were doing, and that ended that. It did end to different. I think goats was what it was, but essentially, I mean, we were getting a whole lot of information from that guy I was talking about at the podium. But then, as far as the dogs went, he was shot through the leg, and we were totally unable to use anything on that. No palliative uh, information, uh, no doctoring. Essentially, you had to keep that dog alive with nothing, which would be appropriate for when you were actually deployed.
Wow. And that, I mean, I've the few medics that I've spoken to, they said they instantly, but when they first came across their first gunshot victim, Mr. Joe Parnar is one that he instantly thought back, and that training just comes in, and you take over. At first he said he was kind of taken aback because he was in a mission when he first saw his first big victim taken literally out of the med shed, and uh, but he said the training, like you said, was so in depth and driven home that he just snapped into it and began treating wounds and taking care of everybody that he could take care of.
Yeah, I mean, it was extremely intense. What we would do is a friend of mine who was also in that. In When we'd go home, we would sit there and quiz each other until we were sure that we had yesterday's information all locked down because we'd be tested on it. And then the next day we'd get another load.
Man, and I remember on your past interview, you were speaking about the shamans. Did they give y'all any forewarning about going to be having to dealing with stuff like that, their homemade remedies, and them might not being too keen on coming to you guys at first?
Yeah, some of the teams who had been over there already, and then were back in the States and teaching, and they told us all about it. And the big thing I found was to not hassle them. You know, nod your head and agree and so forth. And some of the things that they were doing was it worked. So we could put that in our little repertoire.
Mm.
But a lot of it was just shaman stuff. Yeah. Pass something over, and it'll heal up.
Man, yes, sir. We've heard some of their wild remedies, and then again, like you said, we've heard a few times about guys being introduced to cupping and some methods like that that they.
Cupping definitely. We saw that, and it had its purposes particularly for open wounds where they were getting infected.
Mhm.
So that was able to pull it all to the surface to where you could get there and cut it off, and then re-bandage it and keep going.
I mean, you're starting to see a lot of the. It's always been in martial arts, but now you're starting to see a lot of the NFL and UFC guys starting to use cupping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and it's just your career is absolutely amazing. You keep in mind, guys, he went through training group and at 18, joined at 17, and as you're leaving your first tour, I believe, did you immediately get back
Yeah.
and go to language school, or where did you first
What
go when you
what
got home?
happened there was it was a choice: go do something, learn something somewhere, or sit there at Fort Bragg. And in those days, basically, if you were my rank, you were the ones that was out there and doing lawns. I wasn't terribly interested in that. So I volunteered to go to language school, went out to Monterey, and took French.
Oh, that'll be a huge help in your time in Vietnam. Uh, Curious on that. It'll be kind of not jumping ahead, but you did go another time. What do you find the hardest language that you've learned? What was the hardest language to learn for you?
Easy Russian.
Wow. Okay. So you speak Russian. That I don't think if you gave me a million years, I don't think I could learn to read it or speak it. Those Cyrillics are absolutely insane to look at in books and
Uh,
such.
yep. And at the end of the course, you had to give a speech. And
Oh,
like,
oh man, yeah. I've heard from some of the SOG guys post Vietnam. They ended up in Monterey, and they said the language course is no slouch. You some guys go in there thinking they're going to enjoy the weather and mess around, and that's definitely not the case. You're going to learn, or at least be able to get yourself through on a foreign language after going through there.
exactly. So, yeah.
Wow. Um, and with language school, I can't remember. Are you starting to get on the pipeline to maybe become an officer at this time?
I was, yes. They came around, some of the recruiting people, and said I needed to go to OCS and be an officer in the Special Forces. So I did that. I went there and got my commission, and then decided that I would go to Ranger School. Uh, 8 weeks, the most miserable days of my life.
Oh, I've as a matter of fact, just listened to a modern Green Beret that I think ended up with CAG Delta, whatever you would like to call him. He said the exact same thing. He's like, I just got back from a tour where I was miserable, and then I made the mistake of going to, I think he went to Winter Ranger School and lost, I think, 28 pounds. He said it was a nightmare.
Yeah, that'd be about right. Yep.
Jeez Louise. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Language school, OCS, and then Ranger school, and to cap it off, is fifth group standing up at this time that you're about to join them?
Yeah. Uh, well, my next tour was with an A team up in the Central Highlands, one I described earlier. But then when I came back after that tour, I wasn't in particularly good shape because, well, I'll tell you why. Uh, I was had to patrol out and was trying to keep them in reasonable distance on the flanks so we could respond no matter where it came from. But people being people, they like to be close to other people. So I'd have to go out on the flank and chew their ass and get them back out on one side. By the time I got back, I'd chew the other one's ass and get them out. And ordinarily I traveled number two in the college column because the indigs they knew sign and I didn't know it all. I was pretty hepped up on it, but certainly not as much as them. But I got like I said, ordinarily I was number two, but working my way back up through the column, I was about number eight at this point, and then a huge explosion knocked me back on my back. I'm up there. I can't hear anything. All I see is basically vapor. I'm thinking, I'm dead. And then after a little bit, I started hurting. Wait, you don't hurt when you're dead. So I got up and got into the fight, and then they medevac me. Got me to one of the field hospitals, and I'm lying there. They can't give me general anesthesia because of the explosion. There's too much pressure. So I'm lying there and they're doing pieces at a time of shrapnel that I'm from the bottom of my stomach all the way to the tops of my feet. And so I'm noticing as we were doing that, one of the nurses that, I mean, she looked, to me, she was old. I was in my early 20s, but she looked like she was laughing. And I was trying to figure out what the hell is she laughing about? And finally, they got as much of the shrapnel out as they could and went back to the ward. I'm laying there feeling sorry for myself. And here she comes with every nurse in that hospital. She throws back the cover on me and says, "Girl, have you ever seen one this big?"
Oh man,
I was not
that's
amused.
hilarious. I bet you were. I mean, I'm sure they were in for quite a shock, but I'm sure you were in for a pretty shock being used as show and tell material.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is how long were you laid up with your injuries recovering?
Oh, almost a week.
Oh wow, okay. That's you. It sounds like you came out smelling like a rose. It could have been a lot worse considering.
Oh yeah, yeah. If it had been any higher and hit me in the head, I'd been dead.
Um, and is this also the tour that that you were ambushed in your Jeep?
No, that was the tour and the third tour.
Oh, good Lord. Wow. Okay. Um, let's see. I remember with one of your camps, is that your mission set to lead and train some Cambodians, and that you're under uh I'm not sure if y'all were deployed under the combined studies operation or
Yeah, we were. It was what they called the Borden Project,
oh,
and essentially we would go around to all these POW camps and find the people that were most likely that we could turn them, and we'd get them out of the camps and then put them in a camp up in just out of Saigon, and give them all kinds of classes and get them ready to go back and do recon basically for us. So we go into Cambodia and Laos, all up and down North Vietnam, putting these guys out and getting our asses shot up quite often. One particular one, I just gotten the agent out as one of those old not Vietnamese, I mean, run by Vietnamese helicopter about 6 feet off the ground to get out the door. And I'd put my guy out there, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. And the guy was with me, my 1-0. He got shot. A bullet went through the helicopter and dinged off his head and knocked him unconscious. I figured there wasn't much I could do for him, so I jumped out of the helicopter and grabbed the agent and threw him back in. And as I was doing that, the door gunner, Vietnamese door gunner, was working out, and he got shot. And so I'm up there on the gun, trying to hold because helicopter just flat ass ain't flying. Uh, so then I ran out of ammunition on that. So I went to the AR and was engaging. And the damnedest thing, there were 10 of them, and they were all online, and they were marching toward me and shooting. But bullets never came anywhere close. And I don't know, but I'm going to take advantage of it. So I started picking them up and got them all killed, or at least out of action. And then I realized sometime later, asked, they were there because they wanted to capture you. They didn't want to kill you. I wasn't about to be.
oh, holy cow. Wow. That boy, that was not familiar with the Borden project. I mean, I'm not. I will be. I'm putting
Tore,
that down.
yeah, the area around it. But another helicopter came in, and we all got in it and got the hell out of there.
Good Lord, have mercy. Did you? I thought I remember you saying. I don't know if maybe if it was during your tour with A18 in the Happy Valley or in '66, but you had mentioned not many big army had not yet arrived, and y'all were actually getting flown around and resupplied by Air America for quite some time before big army showed up. Mr. John? Uh-oh. Hold tight, everybody. Uh-oh. Guarantee he got a phone call. I noticed this is when he started. He's on his cell phone, so uh, uh, that freezing up issue was somebody calling or texting him. I'm thinking. We'll give him just a second. His wife was in the kitchen, and she can help us out. So just hang on a sec. We'll give him a minute and let him get back on here because we've really at 40 minutes really just got into the start of his career. Although that what we just spoke about, that was actually a SOG project. Borden project is a SOG project that he was running based out of Camp Longton, where the 1-0 school is. Speaking of that, we'll have Travis Mills on next Monday, the guy who started the 1-0 school and moved it to Longton. But he, Mr. John, was actually running these out of all three CNCs at that time. All of the FOBs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. So he was literally all over SOG's FOBs and bases running operations, and these type of operations that you just heard about. Let me see here. I'm hoping he will jump back on. And oh, here he comes. Yep. Hey, there you are, Mr. John.
Yeah, we got back.
Yes, sir. We were hanging out waiting for you. Let's see. I think. Well, yeah, we just got done talking about the Borden project, and I believe you. I've got a picture of you too. I think at this point in time, but you were assigned to the newly formed third group in 1965, correct?
Yeah, that is true.
And what was their formation? Was that for Vietnam, or what exactly was third group planning to jump into?
Wait, I don't know about third group. Well, I was never in third group.
Oh, okay. I thought you were assigned for a little while with third group. Okay.
No.
Okay. Um, let's see, 1965, 1966 is that when you're on the team? I think in Vinton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the when you had mentioned that y'all are living underground because it is like a rocket magnet, I believe you said.
Yeah, that's about right. Yep.
Wow. And are these are you getting all sorts of mortars, the 122s, any all the big stuff like that?
Getting getting quite a lot of it. That camp was down in the middle of the valley with rice paddies all around, but then the mountains took off on either side, so they could shoot down on us from any place, and did a lot of it. It was definitely not a fun place to be, but that whole camp was underground. CBs had come in and built the hooches for us. So the mortaring and in one case artillery really didn't affect us a lot, pissed us off, but that's about it. But the only thing that was above ground was the toilet for obvious reasons. And that was one. You'd be sitting on a toilet and you hear plunk, and that was the sound of a mortar going off.
Oh.
And you best finish your business or just pull your drawers up and find yourself a hole to get in.
Oh, Lord have mercy. That had to be the worst feeling in the world, hearing that right in the middle of your morning constitution.
Yeah, wasn't good. Had two NCOs there who hated each other's guts. They'd get into fights all the time. I'd get in the middle of it, get it off, and so forth. But one of them, Herman Spencer, he was in the toilet one day like that, and he jumped to get out, and his pistol hit the side of the toilet and cut a groove right down his leg. And,
Oh.
as, he got him all patched up. And I said to him, "You're going to ask for a transfer. You're going to get the hell out of here because so you and your buddy there, I don't want to see that fighting all the time. And if you don't choose to do that, I'm going to tell everybody in Vietnam that you were shot, that you were wounded by the shithouse."
Oh my goodness. Jeez Louise. Oh man. And I think you had mentioned um is this during the time around Operation Crazy Horse with the rock
Yeah.
troops happens?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
What was that like? I know it's probably big army being in country probably completely changed the special forces touch of the war going on. What was that like for you guys?
Well, it was. I mean, yes, there was the cav that would come in out there, and it was nice occasionally because they'd come in down this road, which was ambush alley, and come out and bring us things and take pictures and so forth, and talk about, oh man, I'm glad I wasn't out here and so forth. But yeah, they on Operation Crazy Horse, there was a people that were put in on the top of a mountain and should not have been there. It wasn't They weren't combat folks, photographers and so forth, and they got overrun, and most of them killed, and the XO of the cab was flying over and observing it and saying, "Ain't this the craziest damn horse I ever rode?" And that's where it got its name.
Wow. I was curious about that and was hoping that was true. That's what a great what a great in the moment name for an operation.
Yeah, yeah,
Jeez Louise. Um, I think is this I believe you've got one of the craziest grenade stories I've ever heard about your indigenous soldiers wanting to help you out while you're throwing grenades at the enemy.
yeah. That was when we were going up the side of that mountain, and it was the Operation Crazy Horse, and I had a team out there of yards, and there were four other teams that were going through the valley there and trying to locate and see if the Viet Cong were still up in those mountains there. So we'd been out there in that damn elephant grass, cut to pieces from that shit for several days, and finally we're almost to the end of the valley there, and my Vietnamese counterpart points up the side of this mountain and says, "Oh, Trung Nguyen, Beaucoup VC, Beaucoup VC." Okay, we were told to fix them, so let's do that. So we started up that mountain with my company, and all hell broke loose. They were mortaring down where we'd just been. They were we were trying to find holes to get into to secure ourselves while we could throw grenades and shoot in it and work our way up it. And yeah, I was chunking grenades into these holes because they didn't have any upper body strength. My indigenous didn't. So they were tossing grenades to me, and they saw me doing the countdown, one 1,000, two 1,000, and throw, and it lessened the chance of the enemy grabbing that thing and throwing it back at you. So they heard me doing that, and they were pulling the pins and throwing the thing to me. Oh shit!
The most dangerous game of hot potato ever.
Yeah, it was that. I uh, I had managed to get one up into about the second echelon, and the guy was in there, and so I managed to get it thrown right down into the hole there, and it went off, of course. So I ran up there to make sure that the person that was in there wasn't going to be any more dangerous to it. And all I saw was an AK-47 pointing at me. I think I think I pulled that trigger faster than I ever done.
Holy man, oh man. That whole, I mean, because y'all are getting again going uphill, and you've got sniper fire coming. I mean, y'all are getting it from both sides and every which way.
Oh, we were getting it. We were definitely getting it from everywhere. Certainly with the mortars right behind us and working their way up, basically pushing us up that hill. I couldn't go back down the hill and try to recoup down there. So it was either forward or die where you are, and we kept pushing. And I had one of my NCOs take a platoon and go over down to the right there, and there was a little valley that he could maintain cover in. So I told him to go down there and flank around these guys, and we'll take him out. And kept on working my way up the hill. Uh, kept on getting shot at, and the grenades thrown at me. Finally, it got to a point where I could take a little bit of cover, a big old banyan tree, and I'm there, a bit scared by it, and bullets whanging off both sides of this thing. And what do I do now? And that was about the time that my guy came out of that valley there, and we were able to push him out of there. And we kept on going quite a bit. The cab was supposed to be in there, get in there. It was almost getting dark, and I was not really interested in doing a retain overnight. That was basically surrounded by the enemy. So the cab finally came in, and they yep, gung ho. They'll go get after this, and you guys back us. I pointed towards the sky. It's almost dark. There's no way in hell I'm going to put my people out there in the dark.
No, I mean, that would have been a suicide mission going
It
out
was
in the dark with that.
no question. We wouldn't known where they were until we saw the bullet flash.
Oh, God Almighty, that gives me goosebumps even thinking about going out there like that. Jeez Louise. Um, how long is this? Oh well, before I ask that, were these your Cambodians that you were fighting with at this point in time?
No, these were Montagnards.
Montagnards again. Wow, holy cow. Tough, tough guys, as we're seeing, man. Um, and on top of that, as we go into the next chapter, where do you happen to remember where your yards were from? What Bami Tui, Quezon?
They were they were local people that we had at the team. We'd recruited them, got
Okay,
them out of the hills, and made sure the VC wasn't harassing them and taking all their food and everything. And they were more than happy to take it to them.
wow. That's I love the stories of the Montagnards linking up with you guys, and we had an interesting story yesterday about one of the interpreters that started with a group of 18 guys when he was 14, and then ended up with SOG, and then followed Doc Paget and some other SF men down to Nicaragua, and sadly was killed in a looks like an explosion that they planted a bomb on the aircraft. But it's interesting to see the lifelong dedication that they have for you guys once y'all seal y'all's brotherhood in battle.
That's it. It was you just keep on going, otherwise you're going to die in place.
Mm, mm, mm. The next as you leave country and start heading deroasing back to the States, I found it very interesting that the two things, your next two job tasks coming up, I believe you said that sadly when Reverend King was assassinated, that you were in DC running security, I believe armed.
Yep, certainly was.
My God. Wow. I see photos and newscasts from that night, and they're in Detroit and Philadelphia, and other places like that, Chicago, and it's just it looks like apocalypse now with places just on fire, burning to the ground.
Yeah.
Did DC ever get close to getting out of hand, or were y'all a threat enough to let people know this ain't the place to do that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Did DC ever get to where it was about to get hot and y'all were maybe gonna have to be called into action to?
It was. I had in between going to Vietnam. I was assigned to the 101st or to the 82nd as a company commander, and that's when the riots were. So here we are. I'm on a gun jeep headed into my nation's capital. I got to thinking, now it comes to this, for God's sakes. I'm going to be killing these people. And if they had opened fire on us, we certainly would have.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, I can't imagine that there you are coming back from Vietnam, and like you said, is it really come down to this?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. But
I mean,
frankly, and looking back on it, the biggest mistake we made was to send regular units into Vietnam.
that was about to be my next question on where you stood on that, as far as keeping it special forces or expanding like it was.
It should have been only special forces, SEALs, various units who are chomping at the birth to get in there, and they could have. Once we started sending companies, battalions, the whole bit over there. The Vietnamese basically quit. Why should we go out there and get killed when the Americans are going to do it?
And we hear it, or have heard it quite often, that exact thing, that there's some crack units, but most of the time, unless the LLDB was hooked up with SOG or doing something with the SEALs or what have you, that and a few airborne ranger Vietnamese ranger battalions that were running with Project Delta or what have you, that they were doing just like you said, they were letting the Americans run and fight.
Yeah, and frankly, looking back on it, I can't blame them.
Yeah, absolutely. When they've got special forces like you guys and all the air power and all of that, I hate to say that, but yeah, I mean, you can't blame them. But looking back on that, they should have been right there with y'all learning, because when Vietnamization, came, boy, were they underhanded. But that's jumping a little head into the future there.
Yeah, it didn't prepare them for when we did completely withdraw. It didn't prepare them to be able to resist the invasion from the north. So basically, that was just simple math for the NBA.
It's amazing I mean, well, that was a big one, but there are some little ones that pop up. But it's amazing the butterfly, the ripple effect, whatever you'd like to call it, with Kennedy, because I've always heard, and then some people have told me I was wrong, but I've heard that Kennedy was planning to keep it low numbers and as much special forces as he could, with Hotfoot going on, or White Star in Laos and such as that. And then he's killed, and LBJ comes in and ends up sending 250,000 troops in before you know it.
Yeah, and quite frankly, and it may sound that I'm a cynic, but they did it deliberately to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you're looking for something to go wrong, follow the money, and that's exactly what was happening with all these big supply companies and all the rest of it. They were making a pile of cash off of that. So why would the Vietnamese want to do anything?
Exactly. And here I thought, waste in the army was a modern thing in Afghanistan, but when I got to speaking to you guys and hearing about some of the stuff going on in supplies, boy, that'll that'll open your eyes on stuff that was going on in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man.
It was the same thing. Same thing with Afghanistan. We had no reason to be putting troops in Afghanistan. But you wanted to, Osama bin Laden? Fine. Send special operations in there. They will find him. They will either kill him or take him out of there. But no, we've got to send companies, battalions, yeah, entire units over there because that's where the money is.
Marines, Air Force, Army. It literally played out just like the buildup and all of that. I mean, you can almost say that they even had their own little Tet, if you will, in Afghanistan and Iraq, with the gosh, when the Shia and all of them ended up dispersing the Sunnis out, and in came that madman. Al Zarqawi and all of that. I mean, that all but defeated. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying it, but the ISIS and Al Qaeda. I mean, it literally played out just like it's crazy. I love that saying. History may not repeat itself, but it sure as hell plays a lot of the same notes.
Yeah, exactly. So
Um,
exactly. So, and part of a major part of the problem is our officers.
Excuse me.
We've got officers that are basically they're there to get the next rank and the next rank and so forth. In many cases, I mean, they only spend 6 months with a company. That's not, you barely learn your people in that. It's ridiculous. But we keep stuffing people in there, and the guy gets his tag on it and goes on to the next and the next and the next. And Mark Willie, who I knew back then, was a perfect example of that.
That's that. I mean, perfectly, absolutely perfectly said. The next part I was going to ask you and like to hear a little bit about was and we've heard Mr. Dick Thompson from MACV-SOG speak about it in some of his interviews and his two new books in his book series about the quick kill shooting method.
Mm.
Could you describe what you were doing and the training and movements behind that?
Yeah, when I came back after that second tour, I wasn't exactly useful to be go full time. So they knew me as a gunsman, and they put me in there as a quick kill. which teaching quick kill, which started with skeet shooters. They were teaching the technique, not trying to find the site and so forth, and it worked. So I taught that for the next almost a year. Various units throughout the U.S. And the U.K. And it does work.
Mr. Dick Thompson said once he learned it stateside that that's pretty much all the way he was shooting when they'd be in Laos on an operation. I think he could count on one hand the times that he actually brought the rifle up to his shoulder and looked down the eyesight to shoot.
Yeah.
And he said the training worked quite well because not only training shooting the I forgot was the plates, he could do that, and then of course clearly he survived and was pretty daggum good in the field. But he said it worked like a charm for him. Let's see the quick kill. Did I thought I remember on one of your interviews, the quick kill initially to even begin, y'all started off with BB guns. Was that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Started with BB guns. We would put the assistant would stand next to them, and they would be not on the shoulder, but as you would be in combat, you'd be holding it probably on your hip. So we'd take a disc and spin it and throw it up in the air. And the task then was to get that thing on your shoulder and make a ding. And it's amazing what happens when people hear that ding. It just it opens up their eyes and reality, and it is very fast. And as time would go on, we'd make the disc smaller and smaller until it got to the stage where we were throwing lozenges up in the air, and people were hitting them.
Holy crap! Throat lozenges.
Yeah, just basically, it's very small stuff. As long as you hit it, it scattered stuff, and it built their ability and their confidence by orders of magnitude.
I can imagine. So if I was hitting throat lozenges, I'd be walking pretty chest out behind that. That's a big one.
Yeah, it's very definitely doable. We even had John Wayne out doing it.
Oh wow, that is amazing. Were you speaking of him, were you around when they were doing no, I think you were with SOG. Were you ever around when he was at Fort Bragg getting ready for the movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Got to meet his a bunch of people that his not Wayne so much. I didn't want to bust in and do the old business. Oh man, John Wayne. But yeah, it worked for him. So you can imagine that the average guy out there, and we went around teaching it. It wasn't just at Fort Benning. We went around to the various bases, both in the United States and the UK.
Wow. I know. Well, since I think we're about to actually be to get into the SOG realm. But since you brought up the Brits, I don't want to forget. Did you have contact with the SAS while you were in Vietnam?
Oh yeah, but it was the Australians.
The Australians. Okay.
Yeah,
I've got a.
There weren't any Brits in there.
Okay, yeah. I was curious about that because I've got a photo from a CCS vet, and he's got Aussies and I thought some Kiwis, but definitely some Australian SAS guys.
Yeah.
at Longton with
Yeah.
him.
And the Kiwis were there too.
Okay. That clears it up then. I was wanting to make sure on both of those accounts. Um, I believe time-wise, is this getting close to 1968 that you are about to link up and go into the world of SOG?
Yes. They had just come back from the whole riot thing as a company commander there, and I wanted no more of that shit. So I volunteered to go back to Vietnam. And Mark Ponzillo at the time became a good friend. He was a major. And can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So met him there, and he talked me into going to SOG out there with that operation. Then I was a field officer in charge of the Warden Project.
Wow. And was I think and you'll probably let us know. I'm assuming that you were working out of all of the FOBs/CNCs, but was the
Yeah,
project based at Camp Longton at B-53?
it was actually based just out of Saigon.
Oh,
There was a small base there. It's where we trained all the SOG guys.
wow. Okay. I've always enjoyed seeing the Longton photos and was curious if y'all did some of y'all's training and agent work and stuff out of Longton proper.
Yeah,
Um, and I think we've got a photo of you at Longton in your tiger stripes with two other gentlemen.
yeah,
Y'all are outside by the buildings where the teams would take their graduation photos, actually.
yeah. We never had insignia when we were there.
Mhm.
There was too much risk because some of those things were right on the edge of war crimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Damn sure didn't want our name out there anywhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm definitely gonna have to look into the Borden project now. I literally learn something new every day, SOG or Vietnam related, speaking to you guys. But did you say your title was Field Operations Officer?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, gosh, if I'm not mistaken, Dick Meadows may have been doing that for a little while he was at Monkey Mountain. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, I operated out of Monkey Mountain quite a bit.
oh,
Dick and I were good friends.
wow. Okay, man, and guys, y'all should know Mr. Dick. He's a two CNC legend, both at CCC for running RT Ohio, and at one point in time capturing the most POWs out of Laos in a given month alone, or
Yeah,
with his team, and then went to CCN to run the recon company and ops that Mr. John was running. So just an absolute legend of a man.
yeah. When I left SOG there, I went to the what the hell's the name of it? We were basically based out of. I'll think of it in a minute. I have these
Blue
memories.
Light with Mott Lake.
No,
Oh,
this was still in Vietnam.
hmm.
At It was the last project there. Project shit. I'll think of it. But in any case, what it was neutralization of Viet Cong.
Oh, the Phoenix program.
Phoenix, Phoenix. That's it. And we would go out and we would capture these guys.
Hmm.
Everybody thought it was a murder program. They were out there killing people. And basically, no way in hell. I can't get information off a dead man.
Hmm.
So we'd go and we'd capture them and bring them back in. And it's surprising how quickly they would turn and give us all the information we could ever possibly want. Very effective program. We worked all up in Central, all up through the border, getting these people in there.
Wow. And we've had a prior PRU uh commander, I don't know, OIC, shall we say. He ran the detain-in office in the PRU out of there, and he was a Marine Force Recon Lieutenant. And very interesting stuff. Gathering sources, he actually ended up getting a rather large, known as the detain-in source. But what would a I know y'all have your larger operations, but what would a normal operation when you've got a name? Are you going to the village? Are you going into the city to start maybe observing him, or are you going straight to him and bringing him in and start asking questions?
Straight to them.
Straight to him.
We'd find out where they were going to be that night. And usually they were laid up with a fine-looking young lady. So we'd get in there, and I'd put up a probe right behind the ear and tell them, "You're coming with us." And they certainly didn't want me to drive that thing into their skull. So away we went. Took them out of there and interrogated them, and they were more than happy to give us all the information. We got it so good that there was an NVA battalion that came down on the trail and was lost for a week. There were no trail watchers. There were no guides. They just wandering around until we found out that they were there, and brought in an airstrike on them.
Holy moly, boy! Talking about catching them out in the open. We had a viewer question right here, and guys, if y'all have got any, I noticed I missed a few, and we'll get them here as we're getting towards the end after we talk a little about blue light. But Al was curious about the Phoenix program. He was wondering, were the missions delivered to you from commanding officers or higher up, or from the CIA, or where were they coming from?
Wasn't the CIA, though most people think it was.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was completely out of the headquarters in Hawaii. We'd get our orders from there straight down. Nobody else had any authority over us.
Was that like SINPAC, or I think the name of Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Command? I forgot. Maybe I'm mixing my stuff up. I think it was that, but yeah. Wow. Okay. So when would it kind of sounds like your team and your guys would hand off some of the stuff to our Marine Corps guest, because he was talking about, he did do some pickups and all of that, but he had mentioned a few times that they were picked up by I believe he said Air America, or maybe the 25th ID, some weird helicopter group with the Army, some with the Air America groups, and they would actually go on platoon size operations and sweep out some areas.
Yep. Yeah, they were mostly in 4 Corps operating down there. I wanted no part of that. Water all the time.
Yeah.
And they did some around the north, but not a lot.
That's exactly where he was, right on the border of 3 and 4 Corps. So that would make a lot of sense. And yeah, the Delta seems like it would have been just god awful, as if the Vietnam jungle isn't bad enough. You're down there in the swamps dealing with everything you can imagine.
Did everything I possibly could, and was and staying the hell away from 4 Corps.
I would have to I've tried the exact same thing because I want no part of any of that down there. That the seals can have fun down there in the swamps.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way I see it.
Um. Oh wow. Oh, and while we're still here, before we transfer out of Vietnam, the guys were curious. Well, I guess this could go both for your time with A teams, and then of course some of these people are wanting to know about SOG because we hear about people carrying upwards of 20 magazines. But how many magazines were you carrying during your tours?
Uh, Rifle magazines.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and enough that I could keep on my gear. I didn't carry a lot. I
Oh,
figured if I was going to be in a fight that far, I'd either better be able to kill in some air, or, or expect to die there.
yes, sir. And you being the officer and sometimes the one of the only Americans, you had to you probably weren't spending a whole lot of time shooting unless, like you said, it got bad because you were on the horn so much.
Yep. Yeah. It you know, you're out there in the jungle and it's hot as hell anyway. So you're anything extra that is on you becomes a burden. And I had to carry a radio, and back then it was a huge damn thing. And of course, ammunition and grenades, and that was about it.
Wow, wow, wow. Did you as far as a sidearm, did you carry a sidearm on you?
Nope,
Oh wow, holy cow. Okay.
nope,
Uh
just extra weight.
yeah, I've that's hilarious how many times we've heard that saying, nope, I'd rather have another magazine of Car 15
Yep,
shells.
exactly.
Man, oh man. It's hang on, I think I might have saw another
Now,
question.
one thing that you might event that might interest you is with the second when I was out there that the second time I told you that we were out in the middle of a rice paddy where the mountains were on each side, and they had on one side a guy would come out from the mountains. I could clearly see him, and but he was too far away to reach with a rifle. So so I certainly with an M16. So he would be calling the shots and telling them where to put the ammo and so forth and so on. And by the time we'd get somebody out there with air, he was long gone. So I went to up to the east, the Marines up there, and traded some genuine, honest to God. We took these flags, see the blood on them, yeah, and so forth and so on. We just had them made down in the local mill, but put dropped some blood on them and traded it for one of the sniper rifles. And next time that guy came out, I was all tuned in anyway. He came out of that flight and I had him. And so we never saw that problem again.
Wow. What was the designated rifle that they were shooting? Was it the M14, the M?
No,
Uh,
they had a specific sniper rifle, one
oh,
shot at a time.
wow. Okay. Jeez Louise. Okay. Um, I'm not a big not. I know my guns, but maybe someone can chime in on what the years were or what the sniper designation rifles were back at that time. Maybe like an XM 25 or 48, maybe something like that.
It was,
Um,
I know it was from Europe.
oh,
Uh,
okay, yeah, that definitely was a specialty rifle then from
yeah.
Europe. Wow. Um, And I can't remember when if you had any run-ins with Full Row or and don't worry guys, it's not the one y'all are thinking about, the KKK when you were working with your Cambodian men.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I had a price on my head that was rather staggering. I was,
Oh,
there were times when I worried about my own men.
man. And Full Row put that on you?
Hmm.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, because I think you were in country when didn't they have that big rebellion at the A camp where they killed some South Vietnamese and
Yep,
oh man.
yep. That was up north of us. Yeah, but yeah, it was a disaster.
I try to pronounce the name, but I can. It's like Buon and I or
Yeah, I'll think of
starts
it.
with
Another
Buoen or something.
boon now.
There you go. Thank you. I knew you'd come through.
Huh?
um, and let's see, guys, I'll keep looking. There's a lot of comments coming in, but I can't tell if all of them are questions. But what when you finally learn that you're going to be leaving the Phoenix program, are you looking to maybe extend and stay in Vietnam, or have you think you've had enough of Southeast Asia at this point in time?
I didn't have any choice.
Oh,
The program was being denounced on the halls of Congress by
mm,
J. William Fulbright about this murder program that we had going over there. So they shut us down, uh, sent us sent us everywhere except Vietnam.
wow, jeez Louise. And I had forgotten how, I mean, he literally screamed it and from the seats of Congress and was naming names and
Yep.
he really he's the one I think, and it'd be hard to argue, but the one that really started dragging Phoenix and the men associated with it as murderers and assassins, which
Oh yeah,
it,
absolutely.
and I don't mean to throw the Vietnamese side under the bus because that always happens, but some of the worst egregious things that happened in the Phoenix program were perpetrated by Vietnamese settling old scores.
Oh yeah,
I've heard that from numerous veterans that
very
that knew or either worked closely with some Phoenix guys.
very much so. Yeah, that's why I made sure because I wasn't supposed to be out leave the headquarters there. But
Oh man.
that's why whenever they went out, I was with them
Wow.
because I knew damn well they would kill them. They had grudges.
Mm.
In one case that I got there, the guy had come in with his people into the village and killed all the women, children, and old men, everybody. So, needless to say, they had a grudge on him, and I kept him alive. Hey, come on, guys! you can't you can't shoot him here. Once he's down to the island, he's on yours. But let's get some information off him. And he spilled his guts everywhere.
Oh, I can imagine. All of them were thinking if I just tell them everything I know, hopefully they'll appreciate all of that, and I can get out of this war and get the heck out of here.
Yeah,
And you mentioned the island. Did y'all were y'all didn't y'all have a prison built or basically an island prison kind of situation to where the
yeah,
the the VCI infrastructure people were held?
yes.
Wow.
Down, it was off the off the itself. It was an island out there, and so we didn't have to worry too much about somebody escaping. And because first off, they wouldn't make that swim. Secondly, they're not Viet Cong weren't going to send some team out there and try to liberate them and get annihilated.
Nah, not with all the naval vessels and then all of the guards and all that. God, that would be an absolute suicide mission doing that.
Yeah,
That would be crazy. Even for them pulling off some crazy stuff or trying some crazy stuff, that would top the list right there.
Yeah.
Wow. And I was wanting, someone had asked, and they're not in the chat, but I just looked down at my notes, considering the times you were in Vietnam and Special Forces and SOG. Did you, by chance, I know you heard of him, but did you ever cross paths with Jerry Shriver while in country?
Oh, yeah. I certainly did. I
What,
certainly did. He was the crazy man.
I'm hoping, we've gotten word from the man that has spent almost 2 decades getting ready for the book, but a 195th pilot is in the process of writing Jerry Shriver's biography, and we've gotten word that it should be done probably in February of 25, and is going to have tons of unseen photos and stories and all of that. That's got the all of the SOG community and all of the Vietnam historian community very excited that he's finally going to have an actual book devoted to him. So
I was convinced that he was he was a little bit mentally not there.
oh.
He'd go out and do crazy shit. And he managed to make it through for the most part.
He did. And it matched up perfectly with you saying doing all kind of crazy shit, because we've got a photo of him on a bike that they got from Cambodia, and he's wearing a pith helmet, smoking a cigarette with his 44 Magnum pistol belt on, with a Montagnard loincloth on, riding it around the compound.
Yeah, that would be Jerry.
Do you happen to remember where you guys crossed paths at that time? Was he down near Bammy Toohey, or was he in the train?
Yeah,
Or
he was near Bammy to it.
wow.
That was when I was the Phoenix program,
Oh.
Borden project. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
We would launch out of there to get somebody into Cambodia,
Wow.
and it was other ones we got clear out of Thailand.
Oh, wow. That's another interesting group that doesn't get spoke about. The guys that were over there with the 46th Special Forces Company in Thailand.
Yep.
Very interesting group. Wow, you were all over the place there, down there with Jerry launching teams, and up north with Mr. Dick Meadows. I mean, wow, jeez
Yeah,
Louise.
I pretty much knew everybody. I was acquainted with them. Some I wasn't all that fond of, but what the hell?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, let's see. And so you've basically, shall we say, here's a question. I knew this is a good one that was coming up. Joe Garner, who wrote a book, codenamed Copperhead. Did you know him or Henry DeHoop?
Very, very well. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know him in particular. Yeah,
Was
he's at a lot of the meetings, and we'll always sit and talk and tell old stories.
that's amazing. I'm glad. I'll have to look up Mr. DeHoop. I do know Joe Garner by name. I not personally, of course. There are two questions right here as we transfer to our last subject for the day. Mr. Steve Bennett was a Medal of Honor winning Covey pilot, and he was with Project 404 and in a project known as Palace Cobra. Have you ever heard of a man, Stephen Bennett?
I've heard of it and saw something about it, but I didn't know him and the project itself. No.
Okay, we've been trying to figure out a little bit about him. His grandson is on here watching live, and we've been trying to help him out a bit. One day, Jake, we'll hit pay dirt here one day. The Mangler was curious, and I'm not sure what he's referring to, so I'll be anxious to see. Was the Bell telephone hour a real thing?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, the guy was sitting up there in Saigon and playing music, and yeah, it very much was there. I used to listen to it all the time.
Oh, okay. So someone playing music for y'all?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It,
Okay.
I mean, for the whole country. It had
Oh, okay. It was the
good,
radio station.
yeah, the radio station had very
Wow.
good range there.
Wow. Okay. I was reading something. Geez, I forgot whose book it was. It's one of the new ones out. Where they were talking about the polka and something else being played on Armed Forces radio, and immediately turning it off and turning it on to Hanoi Hannah's frequency to where they could listen to the Jefferson Airplane and the Doors and people
Yep.
like that. I always
Yeah,
thought that was funny.
yeah. They weren't terribly interested in the polka.
No, I gotta say, if hearing that they were forcing that on y'all in the field, that would have been audio torture, quite frankly, because that you got to be a polka type of person to want to sit and listen to polka at any point in time.
Yeah.
um, all right, so do you end up finally leaving Vietnam? Is it 1969, 1970?
1970. Got thrown out.
Thrown
19,
out. Yeah, there we are. Fulbright insured of that.
yep.
Um, is your next big movement going with the starting to be more well-known organization known as Blue Light, or did you have some stops before you made it to Blue Light?
No, it was pretty much, well, I went to language school one more time.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I love Monterey.
Hmm. And from what I've heard, excuse me, I can't say I blame you from what I've heard.
It was a nice
um,
break. Yeah. It wasn't all that. I have a talent for learning languages. So it wasn't all that hard to do. And just kick back and have a good time and wasn't getting shot at.
yeah,
That was,
yeah, there you go. um, kind of like with SOG, you meet someone you know, and they kind of bring you into the fold. Is that kind of what Blue Light was like, or did you get a notification one day telling you to show up somewhere? Or
no, it was, I met an old friend of mine who was in it and wanted me to come in and help him out. So I did. And it was an interesting program during the first big terrorist era of people. The various units were, particularly in Europe, all so trying to root them out wasn't interesting. And then, of course, with ships, because the Achille Lauro,
mm,
and I wasn't there, but I was tasked with the idea of how do we get a team on a ship that is similar to that can still fight. And the problem is that there's no place to land.
mm,
You got all that crap that's there above the whole thing there, and you couldn't get a plane. Certainly couldn't get a plane in there. And do a jump into there was asking for it.
mm.
So finally, came up with going up through the shit chute.
Oh wow, straight up through the garbage chute.
Grabbed it up to the shit chute using the
The
patches
sticky
to
pads.
stick, yeah, and make your way up through there, and that worked very well. It was a shitty job.
No pun intended.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like Mission Impossible with the little almost fish scaly pieces you put on that stick to your fingertips to where you can climb glass and all of that. That's a heck of an entry point method right
it's,
there.
we it's funny you should mention that, because we were down in Key West doing this, and one of the companies was doing a show, or I should say, doing a movie on, and basically that. And so we gave them all kinds of information on what should be and what shouldn't be, and what they could do and what they couldn't, and kept them on the line.
Wow, that's really really cool. And here, after all these years seeing that, I thought that there's surely no way that that would work. And here we are finding out now you can actually get on board a ship
Yeah,
using those bad boys.
yeah, yeah. Of course, you got breathing gear on, because a large part of that time you're underwater. So then once you get up and go through it, and it's seldom closed. They just leave it open for most practices, and nobody is generally around there. Nobody wants to be there with the ship. So so it was easy to get on the ship that way.
Wow. And it's I mean, like you said, everybody's going experiencing the airlines. The the ships look like they're about to become a prize target. So, I was very surprised to find out from Jack and listening to you that they had the different sections already intended and set up for blue light, such as the maritime section, which you were
Yep.
a part of. That's very interesting.
Yeah. But
Did,
before that, um, after I had my last trip to Vietnam, I went to language school again, Russian this time, and went to Germany to the group there. And we had basically we had the bailiwick for all of Europe and large parts all the way down through the rest of the peninsula there. That was interesting. It's particularly sneaking people through the wire, and getting people to try and get out of there. In particular, the one of them was a very renowned scientist on various other things, and we managed to get him out of there without any scratches.
oh my God! Wow. Now, are you? I knew you were with 10th Group. Were you with? I hate to say regular 10th Group. Were you with Dead A?
No,
Oh,
uh, oh, I was with 10th Group, and
okay.
we had our own section for doing things like that.
Oh,
Particularly the ones down south. Ones that up around the other part of it. That was Dead A. Uh,
wow. Okay. I had no idea that. And again, I hate saying that the normal groups of 10th Group were conducting operations like that.
oh yeah,
That's pretty heavy duty stuff. Wow.
yep. We went all the way.
Oh, did we lose you, Mr. John? Well, hang on a second and see if he pops back in. Kyle, yes, that's a great book. Jack sent me a copy that a few months ago that we did a show on. That's it's a great book. I actually read it for Dead A and Blue Light information. Great book, recommend it. Um, yes, Frank, Key West is the combat diver course, and the dive tower is named after Walt Shoemate because he's the one that found that piece of land. We'll wait. He just popped off screen, so we'll wait just a second and see. We've got a little bit more, so if y'all got some blue light questions, pop them in. I'm going to be putting his other two interviews up that that y'all can watch for some of the questions that I didn't ask because it would have been ad nauseum because he's answered them so many times. But if y'all got some questions, Al, I see yours. And I think there was another one up there too, but we'll let it get set up here and give him just a minute because we're at 1:45 and we'll probably be done here in probably about 15 minutes. So, and tomorrow we're going to have Braxton McCoy from the Jocko podcast and Mike Ritlin and all of them. He's going to be on tomorrow at 11 a.m. And Friday or next week, I'm trying to get the 2 A-10 pilots on, Dale Stark and Mr. Roger Youngblood. Either way, we'll get Mr. Dell on it at some point, if it's solo or with Mr. Roger. I'd like to have them both on, but we'll see what we can do. Correct, Frank. I always mess up with that when I'm talking about SOG or stuff, and I say regular SF teams, and I don't mean it to be denigrating, but y'all know what I mean. I don't mean to make it sound like they're not special forces. Yeah, Frank, you'd love that book. It's Det K, Det A, Blue Light, Green Light with the new backpack nukes, a lot of stuff. Al, hopefully he will be able to. He will answer that. I don't want to answer it for him, but it's going to be a good laugh. Yeah, thank y'all for helping out with the guns. Yep. Very nice. Hathcock also with the M70. Yeah. Well, we did get far, so that's not too bad. I would love to get him back on for the blue light last little bit, but if we don't, then we don't, but we'll see. Kyle, yes, that was awesome. That was a good episode of Rogan. I can't watch him every time, but I do watch it when he has people like that on. I liked him bringing out the silver Saddam AK. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited for Braxton. And he wrote the book, The Glass Factory. I did a 4-hour podcast with Jocko. It's supposed to. I'm actually re-listening to it to get ready for tomorrow. So, and then Monday we'll have Travis Mills on, the Sapper Attack survivor in the 1-0 school OIC. I've gotten Kyle Dean, his number from RT Arizona, and Captain Jim Young from RT Arizona. So I'm hoping we can have them on. Well, I don't know if they'll come on, but we will have them. I will be able to speak to them and see if we can talk to them. That is Mr. Twiggy, Kyle Twiggy Dean right there with Colonel Apt and Mr. Pope, aka Magnet Ass. What a nickname. Colonel Apt, great dude. It's been touched up a little bit by AI, but that's Twiggy right there. Oh God, Frank, yes. I've not watched that video, but I've got it on my watch later. And after this, I'm going to watch that. I hope it's not as bad as I think it is, but it looks like it's bad. Yes, JD, I have got to resend me that email you had, because I'm in a new group that's strictly third Recon Battalion, and I've got 2 contacts in 3rd Recon. If you could resend that email to me, and they've got some list of all of the men they served with at their time there, and I think the time before. So get that to me, and I'll get their name, his name, to them to see if we can get some information on it. We'll give it, we just did the hour 50 mark. We'll give it another few minutes to see if he comes back on. Yeah, Kyle, no doubt about that. Frank, absolutely. I was glad to get Mr. John on, and we end up having him back on. You know what, Kyle? I think his phone did die. I didn't even think about how much doing one of these on your phone. Yep, his wife's calling right now. Hello? Hey, Miss Mullins. I knew that was going to be the issue, and Kyle, one of the viewers, just put that in there and said, you know what, I think his phone died, and I had forgotten how much doing one of these on your phone eats up your phone battery. If you want to, I'm about to shut it down, and we can, if he'd like to, next week or what have you, us link up and maybe finish the end of it or what have you, we can do that. But I completely forgot to give him a heads up on his phone battery. That will be fine. Do you want me, will next week be fine to check back in with y'all? Okay, I've got an interview scheduled for Monday morning, but either Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll reach out to you guys if that's all right. Wonderful, and thank Mr. John for me. Everyone had a wonderful time watching, and I've already asking, saying, please get him back, please get him back. Excellent, and thank you, Mr. John. Everyone enjoyed it, and we'll be linking up next Tuesday. Yes, sir. See y'all, or talk to y'all next week. You too. Bye-bye. Kyle called it, guys. Oh, Kyle called it. His phone went dead. And I meant to warn him because he didn't have it plugged in, and she just said, I'll make sure he keeps it plugged in, and we'll make sure he's got some headphones in to where y'all can see his face. I apologize about that. I was going to try and get it set up, and we were going to wait, but I figured y'all hearing from him would be fine, and I really didn't care. He wants it to be heard and all of that, and he made the joke. He's like, oh, it doesn't matter if they see my ugly face anyway. So that was what was wrong. He couldn't hear. It didn't have his headphones and all of that. So Kyle called it. His phone absolutely died, and we'll be linking up next Tuesday, as y'all just heard. So we'll get that set up, and next week we'll do probably a 30-45 minute episode, to where if y'all got questions from this episode, have them ready, and then his blue light and post actual Army career we'll get into. So thank y'all for bearing with me. This one was a little ad hoc, off the beaten trail, shall we say. So thank y'all for bearing with us, and I appreciate all y'all do to keep this going, and keeping the page going, and all that. Y'all are great fans and great supporters. So be ready for tomorrow morning, and I'll see you guys at 11 Central Standard Time tomorrow morning. Have a good day. See ya.